My name is Soren Maloney, and I'm a member of the Board of Career Development. And I'm here this morning with Garrison. He's a graduate research assistant in the Mechanical Engineering Department at the University of Texas at Austin. And Jared is here to receive the 2013 Early Career All-Guard Award for his leadership and outstanding service to the ASME as a volunteer. So, Jared, it's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're listed in the awards booklet. I mean, your whole resume, there's a biography of you there. That's a very long track record of volunteer activity to the ASME. But could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience as a PhD student at the University of Texas?
Sure, yeah. Actually, I did my undergraduate at UT as well.
Yeah.
And decided when I was getting ready to finish that the mechanical engineering degree I was getting is very broad, but not too much depth.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to gain more depth into a particular part of mechanical engineering. So that's what really drove me to go into graduate school. And then once I was there, that first year, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. The classes were tough and rigorous, and the people who were there with me were just really smart people. And it was a really cool environment to be in compared to undergrad. So I knew I wanted to stay for a PhD as well as the master's.
Right. And you said depth, and I realize your specialization is energy.
Yes.
And as you know, the ASME has three strategic areas. One focuses specifically on energy. Mm-hmm. The other one on global workforce. Workforce and global impact. So could you elaborate a little bit more on how you think the work that you're doing is going to have some effect on that area of
Sure.
energy?
Yeah. Energy is a big issue.
Yeah.
And I feel like our generation, or my generation, and the generation maybe after me will be doing a lot of the work to try and solve the problem and create solutions to make the energy that we use more renewable and more sustainable. And so going into graduate school, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I wanted to do something I was passionate about. So energy was something that in general, the environment is something that I was passionate about. And so energy was kind of my top choice. And so I was lucky enough to get a position with a research group that does research related to the energy industry. And so that allowed me to get into that area of research.
Yeah.
What I do specifically deals with electricity grid and the electricity market, and looking at using large-scale energy storage in the market and how it might affect the market prices, and if it's even economically feasible to build these types of facilities. And the goal with these energy storage devices is to provide more flexibility to the grid operators so that they can include more wind and solar energy into the electric grid, because those things, they need that added flexibility because they have issues with intermittency, and being able to dispatch them is different than being able to dispatch the natural gas plant, for instance, which you can control, whereas the wind turbines you don't really have that much control over.
And that would hopefully lower the cost. So some of the work you're doing effectively lower the cost of energy, and also maybe how much we use.
Sure. So incenting conservation is a whole nother area, but lowering the cost, as you mentioned, is kind of the goal. We want to provide solutions, but they need to be cost-effective solutions. They need to be able to compete with the technologies that exist today, and in the markets that exist today. So, for instance, right now there's no market for carbon dioxide, and so it makes it a little bit harder for a technology that has a low CO2 footprint to compete with one that has a higher, because the people or the technologies with higher CO2 footprints aren't charged. They don't have any sort of cost associated with that. So it's a little difficult sometimes, because fast ramping natural gas type power plants are what's providing that flexibility right now. And so energy storage could do it, but it has to be able to compete with those those other technologies inside the markets that exist.
Correct. So Jared, when did you actually have the realization that you wanted to become an engineer, and not just an engineer, but a researcher as well? To really dig deep for solutions to some of the really tough questions that, the challenges that we face today?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I have two different answers to that. The engineer part, I wanted to. I kind of knew I wanted to become an engineer pretty early on in my high schoolish years because I really enjoyed math and I was really good at it. I really enjoyed science, and I didn't really enjoy English. So that led me to become an engineer. Although now, I have to use English and communicate a lot as a graduate student. So it's one of those things that you may not enjoy it, but you need to. You need to be good at it. Right?
Yeah.
But in terms of the research, I would say it really took me, that first year of my master's degree when I started doing research and seeing what that was like. As an undergraduate, you do some projects and things like that, but it's not quite the same. They're not as large-scale projects. They're a little bit smaller because they have to be contained within one semester's. You have to be completed within one semester.
Yeah.
So having a bigger scale project with more deliverables and more rigor needed, it really kind of piqued my interest, and having the freedom to do the work myself and figure out what my goals are for this project. How do I proceed? What kind of methods do I use? What kind of results am I looking for? All those things really were very interesting to me and new compared to studying textbooks and taking tests and things like that. And so it was a lot of fun. And that's why I said earlier that after that first year of my master's degree, I knew I wanted to stay for a PhD because I got that taste of doing research.
So that answers the question why you decided to do a PhD as opposed to go into industry. Yeah, you really just wanted to, you got that flair for research and decided, you know what, I enjoy this.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. And it goes back to, those tough questions, those open-ended questions. That's where research becomes involved, where you really need to study new things and find new results.
Yeah.
And that's all research related. And so you're really on the cutting edge a little bit more when you're doing research. And so that's always interesting too.
I definitely agree with you. And what would you say is one of your greatest achievements as well? Greatest accomplishments that you could look back and...
To this point in my life, passing the qualification exams for a PhD was a pretty big accomplishment. So, that's probably the hardest test I've ever had to take in my life.
I've heard of that.
And getting through it the first time successfully was, it was awesome.
Rewarding experience.
Yeah.
I could imagine that. I've done a PhD myself, and I know how stressful that can be. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of work. You have moments where it's up, it's down. So what has been your experience with the ASME? How did you get involved with the ASME? When did you begin volunteering? And how has all of that really shaped you as an individual?
Well, it kind of all started about my junior year as an undergrad. A friend of mine was an officer in the student section at UT, and he suggested I should try and become an officer. I was pretty involved with just going to their events, not being an actual leader in the organization. And so he suggested I try and get a position.
Yeah.
And I thought about it for a while and said, that would be a lot of fun. I see these people who are officers, and they've got a really great group of people. They're a lot of fun. There's no reason not to try and do the same thing. And so I was able to get that position. I was the community service officer for the student section for 2 years. Following that, I was the vice president and the president. So I was an officer in the student section for 4 years, and I had a lot of fun. And we did a lot of really cool things. We tried to improve the section as much as we could, get as many of the students involved in outreach, which was one of my focuses because I was the community service officer, as well as engaging them together and getting engineers to become more social, to meet each other, to develop some social skills that some people might be lacking, or at least provide an opportunity to do that, as well as do advising on classes and professors and things like that. So we provide a lot of different services to the students. We try to expand it. And as soon as I kind of finished with that after I was president, one of my goals that last year as president was to get the student section more involved with the local professional section, the Central Texas section. Because there really wasn't much involvement the years that I was an officer leading up to that point. And so I started to connect the two groups, and that got me active in the Central Texas section. So as soon as I finished with the student section as president, I became active as a leader in the Central Texas section. And I've been doing that ever since. And I guess my main focus for a lot of the things that I've done with ASME has been outreach. Looking back on my own life and seeing how many people have helped me get to where I am, all my teachers, all the volunteers who've been at the activities that I went to when I was a kid, and things like that really made a big difference. And so I think about that a lot, and I always try and find ways that I can do those same things. I can be a volunteer, or I can help with activities, teaching STEM concepts to kids, or things like that. And so there's a lot of those opportunities being at a university, which is nice. So I was able to partake in a lot of those things as well. And then ASME provided avenues for me to do the same thing, as well as try and come up with new ideas to host new outreach activities and things like that. To also promote those STEM subjects and just try and go and have fun with kids and help them learn something.
That's fantastic. So on that note, what sort of advice would you offer to young engineers, on best practices and really how to be successful in their careers? You're here today. You've learned a lot along the way. Could you share some of that?
Sure. Yeah. I would say try and when you're looking for jobs, try and find jobs and pick jobs that is something you're passionate about. So, going through school, you'll know what you're interested in and what really drives you. And so, try and be selective so that you get that first job, or even if it's an internship or something like that along the way, that is really a subject that you're interested in, and that you're passionate about and you have some sort of connection to. Because that will really make it so much easier when you go and work it. And when you're doing something that you're really interested in, you really want to push it. You want to find the solution. You want to work hard. And that's the easiest way to really make a name for yourself and get a good reputation. People start to see how hard you work, and the work that you do is valuable. On top of that, I would say, you need to find a good balance, good work-life balance. Sometimes it's tough. You might have deadlines. You have to work really hard for a week or two. But trying to find things outside of work and outside of the classroom that are inspiring to you, that are fun to you, and make sure that you spend time doing those things to help you, just be enjoy your life and be more passionate about the things you're doing.
I definitely agree, and Jared, you are going to be awarded the Early Career Engineer All-Guard Award. So how do you feel? How do you feel about when you received the notice that hey, you were selected? How did that make you feel?
It's a huge honor, obviously. It's not something I was really expecting or even knew was around, but I did know the last two, or I've met at least the last two award winners, and to be among that group, at least that I know, is really an honor and a privilege. And it's one of those things that it's probably actually going to drive me to do even more things. So getting awards are great, and often they do actually make you work even harder.
It is a big motivation, definitely, to be recognized for your dedication and service, not just to the ASME, but to society as a whole. And I want to congratulate you for that. I want to also thank you, and I want to also encourage you to continue volunteering.
Thank you, and I will. I absolutely will.
All the best.
Thank you.